Hello, I am going to introduce you to a very important concept which is highly necessary in order to understand the interrelationship between visual art and literature. A term which is very important to know for us in order to understand these two areas from an interdisciplinary perspective. The term is ekphrasis. It all began in ancient Greece. So before entering into the discussion of the term ekphrasis, we may go through certain important comments and remarks passed by the great men over the ages. Plutarch, who was a well-known personality, wrote about painting. He said, painting is silent poetry, and poetry is painting that speaks. From Plutarch, we may move to Leonardo da Vinci, who said, painting is poetry that is seen rather than felt, and poetry is painting that is felt rather than seen. In the British Romantic Age, we find the essayist, author, literary critic, and also art critic William Hazlitt commenting on ekphrasis. He says, painting gives the object itself, poetry what it implies. Painting embodies what a thing contains in itself. Poetry suggests what exists out of it in any manner connected with it. Ekphrasis is something unavoidable in our age. This is the digital age, and we can't avoid the impact of the audiovisual on our mind and on our lives. So we need to understand ekphrasis. Today, it means the ways of understanding media as the intersection of verbal and visual. In ancient times, during the time of the Greeks and the Romans, ekphrasis meant a kind of rhetoric. Rhetoric, we all know, was a branch of knowledge that the Greeks and the Romans used to teach the citizens. It was a subject which was mandatory. But how should we take the concept of ekphrasis forward in order to understand the interrelationship between literature and visual art? One poem written in the Victorian era comes to my mind in this context. It was written by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Rossetti was a pre-Raphaelite poet and painter, and he contributed a painting as well as a memorable poem on the Blessed Damozel. The lines of the poems, the opening lines to be specific, runs like this. The Blessed Damozel leaned out from the golden bar of heaven. Her eyes are deeper than the depth of water, still at even. She holds 3 lilies in her hand, and the stars in her hair are 7. When, in English literature class, we teach Blessed Damozel, we may not find the painting available before us. But when we read the poem itself creates the visual effect. After reading the poem, we can see the painting and we can understand the interrelationship between literature and poetry. Ekphrasis was one of the last rhetorical exercises in ancient Greece that students were taught, and the challenges was to bring the experience of a person, a place, or a thing to an audience. The true use of ekphrasis, however, was not simply provide astute details about any object, but to share the emotional experience and content with someone who had never encountered the work in question. We have read out certain lines from Dante Gabriel's Rossetti. If we find time to visit the painting done by him, and another painting was also there on the same title, on the same theme, by another pre-Raphaelite painter, Edward Burne-Jones, we shall be able to understand in much more clear terms what ekphrasis actually means. Thank you very much.